I wake to the taste of soil in my lungs. Not dirt, not mud, soil. The kind that remembers what was buried in it. It coats the tongue like incense burned too long in the censer, like oil left too long on rusted hands. It fills the mask, seeps into the breath. Every inhale drags a ghost through my throat. Every exhale buries it again. The bombardment has stopped, though my ears still hum with its rhythm. Even silence here carries percussion, a phantom thunder rolling beneath the trenches, as if the earth itself cannot forget how to scream. I do not open my eyes right away. I listen first. The soil speaks softly when it settles after a shelling. It sighs, a low exhale through shattered roots and bone fragments. It sounds almost like prayer. When I do open my eyes, I see the familiar gray fog that never lifts. A thin light filters through it, the color of pale blood. Around me, shapes move slow, silent, uniform. I can tell who is awake by the hiss of their rebreathers. The sound is comforting. It means we are still one body. I check the rifle across my chest. Still whole, still mine. My fingers move automatically, tracing the marks etched into its casing unit sigil. Serial number, a small skull where once someone carved a name. The commissar forbids names. We are to be known by number and purpose. But sometimes, when the nights stretch too long, I whisper the name carved beneath my gloves. It is not mine. I think it belonged to the one who held this rifle before me. He must have died well. The weapon still fires true. The trench stinks of oil and damp wool. The pump grinds in the distance, a broken rhythm that reminds me of home. Every trench on every world smells the same, like the breath of the Emperor, heavy and metallic, filled with promise and decay. We are told the pump keeps the trench from drowning. I have come to believe it keeps us from remembering we already drowned. Our sergeant moves through the fog, boots whispering in the sludge. He signals readiness with a slow gesture, palm turned down, 2 fingers tapping the air. Not a sound escapes his lips. On Krieg, silence is the truest form of discipline. Words are for those who doubt. We have nothing to discuss with doubt. I rise when he passes. My armor creaks. The leather straps of my mask pull at scarred skin. The air that enters through the filters tastes faintly of ash and ammonia. Every breath burns a little. It is a good burn, the kind that reminds you you're still paying for something. I look to the horizon. The bombardment has sculpted the world into a ruin of ridges and craters. The enemy lines shimmer beyond sight, hidden by fog and distance. Between us lies a field of bodies, old and new, layered like history itself. When the wind shifts, you can smell them not as rot, but as ritual. The soil of Krieg taught us that the dead sanctify the ground. Each corpse is an offering, each mass grave, a cathedral. The commissar once told us that the Emperor values our blood because it stains without complaint. I remember nodding. I think I even believed him then. Belief is easy when all other options have been buried. There is movement beside me. 813. I think that's his number. Is checking his equipment. His eyes, barely visible through the mask lenses, look like dull embers. He hums softly, a sound like static. The melody is the same one we were taught as children. Through death, redemption. Through obedience, salvation. It is a hymn meant to be recited during chemical bombardment, when speech is impossible. The sound passes through the filters like wind through hollow pipes. I hum with him. The vibration fills my skull until I can almost believe it is the Emperor breathing through us. Then, faintly, I feel something deeper. A rhythm underfoot. A pulse. It comes and goes, like a slow heartbeat buried in the earth. No one else reacts. Perhaps they do not feel it. Perhaps they already belong to it. When orders finally come through the vox, the voice is distorted and slow. Words stretched thin by distance. Coordinates. Advance. Redeploy. No emotion. No inflection. The sergeant repeats the signal with a gesture, and we move. always in silence. We climb from the trench like shadows rising from graves. The mud clings to us, unwilling to let go. It tries to pull the boots from our feet, the weight of the world resisting our purpose. I imagine the dead below are holding on, hoping we might stay and remember them. I cannot. Remembering is indulgence, and indulgence is heresy. Above the trench, the wind tears at us. The sky is a smear of rust and smoke. Each step forward sinks into the breathless ground. Ahead, flashes of lasfire bloom like false stars. I follow the one in front of me. He follows the one in front of him. None of us know where we are going. We do not need to. Obedience requires no map. The charge is short and brutal. I see shapes in the fog, human, not human. It hardly matters. I fire until my pack hums empty. I reload without thought. The body moves faster than the mind, because the body knows what the mind refuses to accept, that we are already dead, and this is only the ritual that proves it. Something hits near me. I am thrown into a pit. The world becomes mud and ringing. When I rise again, I find myself alone among the shattered boards and helmets. The lasgun still in my grip, the soil pressed against my mask. For a moment, the ringing in my ears fades, replaced by that pulse again, the slow vibration of something beneath. It feels alive, patient, watching. I whisper, "Emperor, guide me," though I do not know if it is a plea or a habit. The mud answers by moving. It shifts, slides, rearranges itself around my legs. For a heartbeat, I think it's just the settling of the ground, but then I see fingers pale, worn down to bone, pushing through the sludge. A corpse, reaching. No, not reaching. Greeting. I tear free and climb back toward the trench. When I return, the others are already stacking the dead. The Medicaid drone floats nearby, its lens blinking with soft blue light. Vital signs, adequate, it says in a voice that might have been gentle once. Continue operation. Adequate, that word again. It comforts me. Adequacy is faith. Excellence is vanity. The sergeant points to a section of wall collapsing under its own weight. We dig again, always digging. Digging to move forward, digging to bury, digging to endure. The spade is as sacred as the rifle. I work until the blisters open beneath my gloves, until the smell of old gas and rotting timber fills my lungs. Each shovelful feels like repentance. As I dig, I uncover something, not a body, but a mask, old, cracked, still attached to the suggestion of a skull. The filter unit hisses weakly, as if trying to breathe again after decades. I should turn it over for scrap collection. Instead, I brush the dirt away and place it on the wall, facing east. Old superstition. The dead of Krieg must face the rising light. Even if there is no sun, even if there is no light. Night comes suddenly. The mist thickens into a heavy veil. The world shrinks to a circle of vision through the goggles, 2 meters, maybe less. Beyond that is eternity. The air tastes different after dusk, colder, thinner. I sit against the trench wall and let the rebreather hum lull me. Around me, others sleep upright, their rifles across their chests, heads bowed like penitents. The trench lights flicker, giving the impression of breathing the whole world, inhaling and exhaling through the fog. I cannot sleep. The pulse beneath the earth still thrums. It has rhythm now. Purpose, almost like a voice without words. Sometimes I imagine it forming syllables through the soil, whispering in the ancient tongue of the forgotten. Sometimes I think it is only my heartbeat echoing through the mud. Either way, I listen. It feels holy. I remember the catechism drilled into us as children. Through death, the emperor is glorified. Through obedience, the soul is erased. Through erasure, purity. The instructors said purity was silence. Now I understand. Silence is the truest form of speech. When there are no words left, there is only the breath, and even that belongs to him. Near midnight, a flare rises from the horizon. Its light freezes in the fog, painting everything white for a heartbeat. The silhouettes of my comrades stand motionless statues carved from ash. In that instant, they look like angels. Not the kind that save, but the kind that watch. When the flare fades, we move again, slower, quieter. The ritual continues. Somewhere beyond the trench, something screams, not human. The sound twists through the air, sharp and wet, like metal being stretched. None of us react. Screams are the world's way of remembering what we have forgotten. The sergeant kneels to adjust his vox. Static answers. No command, no confirmation. I think he knows, as I do, that the line has been dead for hours. Still, he listens. That is what faith is, listening to silence and calling it divine. Later, when exhaustion drags me to the edge of sleep, I dream of Krieg again. The barracks, tunnels beneath the ash fields, the taste of recycled air, the hum of machinery. We were taught to sleep standing, to eat without sound, to pray without expectation. I see the instructors lined up, their faces hidden by masks like ours, reciting the creed in perfect unison. You were born in death. You live in death. You will die in death. Rejoice. In the dream, I open my mouth to reply, but soil pours out instead of words. It fills the floor, climbs my throat. The lights flicker. The air grows thick. I wake, gasping, mask filters hissing like a chorus of insects. My gloves are clenched in the mud. I taste blood or rust in my mouth. The trench is quiet. The others still sleep. The pump grinds on. The pulse beneath the earth continues, steady as ever. I whisper, "The Emperor protects," though it feels like an echo now. The wind passes over the trench and carries no answer. Perhaps that is the answer. When dawn comes, it arrives without color. The fog is thicker, the world smaller. The vox crackles once. Briefly, new coordinates, new orders, the same purpose. The sergeant gestures again. I rise. My boots sink into the mud that remembers me. The soil clings lovingly, like an old friend unwilling to let go. My breath fogs the lenses of my mask. Somewhere far below, something beats. I cannot tell if it is the Emperor's heart, or the world's, or mine. Either way, it does not stop, and so neither do I. I learned to breathe before I learned to speak. On Krieg, speech is not a privilege, it is a permission. The mask was fitted first, the catechism after. I still remember the feeling of the first rebreather seal pressed against my skin, the sharp scent of chemical resin, the hiss that sounded like a newborn's first cry. The instructor said, "The Emperor has placed the breath of duty in you. Guard it with silence." I was 6. In the dark training vaults, our world was a rhythm of filters, drills, and prayers. Rows of children standing on metal gratings, identical, motionless, breathing together until the sound of our lungs became one mechanical hymn. If any of us coughed, the overseer's rod struck the floor once. Not as punishment, just reminder. Noise is failure. Silence is purity. We slept in stone cells carved beneath the ash fields. The ceilings sweated rust. The air tasted of battery acid. Between sleep cycles, sermons played through the vox altars recessed in the walls. They taught us the holy equation. Obedience equals redemption. Speech. Obedience equals sin. It was recited so often that the words lost structure, became only tone. Even now, decades later, when the vox of my respirator crackles, I hear those sermons hiding in the static. I think of those halls sometimes when the bombardment stops and the trench grows too quiet. The silence stretches, elastic, until it trembles. That is when memory slips through. It never arrives as sight, only as sound. The rasp of synchronized breathing, the faint squeal of boots on steel, the metallic heartbeat of our instruction. We were told that Krieg had betrayed the Emperor once, long before our births. We were told that every breath we drew was stolen until repaid. There is no end to repayment. That truth sank deeper than any creed. It is why we do not ask for mercy. Mercy interrupts the equation. I remember the day of consecration, the moment we became Guardsmen. The chaplain stood before us. Black coat, stiff with oil. A censer swinging from his hand. The smoke was thick and sweet, cloying enough to taste. We knelt in rows. He pressed a burning brand to the crest of each helmet, etching the double-headed aquila. The smell of scorched metal filled the hall. When it was my turn, I thought I could hear the brand, hissing a word into the steel. Remember, but we are not meant to. Now, in this trench on a nameless world, I feel that same silence weighing on me, heavier than armor. The others sit motionless along the wall, heads bowed. To an outsider, we might look like corpses propped upright. In truth, we are listening to the sky, to the ground, to the emptiness between. Each breath through the filters counts the seconds of devotion. The sergeant moves along the line, checking rifles, checking seals. He stops at me, tilts his head, and places 2 fingers against my chest plate. A reminder, steady breathing, proper rhythm. I nod. He moves on. No words exchanged, none needed. The Emperor understands only obedience. Overhead, the distant guns resume their sermon. The air trembles. Dust drifts from the plank roof like gray snow. The sound does not frighten me. It comforts. On Krieg, we were told that thunder is the Emperor's heartbeat. If so, he is alive tonight. When the bombardment pauses again, I hear the hum beneath the soil, the same vibration I felt before, faint but deliberate. It seems louder now, or perhaps the silence between shells has grown longer. I kneel, glove pressed into the mud, and feel the pulse travel through bone. The earth breathes slower than we do, but deeper. I whisper the old litany under my mask. Through death, purity. Through silence, truth. The ground answers with another vibration. I imagine it replying, Amen. 813 notices my movement. He tilts his head, the cracked lenses of his mask reflecting what little light remains. Do you hear it? I ask, forgetting the rule. My voice emerges flat, metallic, smaller than I expect. He does not reply. He simply touches his respirator, wants our gesture for silence, and turns back to his work. I feel shame flush behind the mask, hot against cold filters. The instructor's rod may be gone, but habit remains. The hum persists. I try to focus on the shovel in my hand, on the measured rhythm of labor. Dig, lift, tamp, dig, lift, tamp. But each impact of the spade feels echoed from below, as if something under the crust mirrors our movements. Perhaps the world digs toward us in return. At rations, we gather around the fuel burner, heating nutrient paste until it steams. None remove their masks. We feed through the tubes. The process is slow, ritualistic. The smell reminds me of disinfectant and rusted meat. One of the younger troopers, too young, his greatcoat still unfrayed, fumbles his connection. A single droplet of ration fluid spills onto his glove. The commissar notices. No words, just a glance. The boy freezes, then straightens, correcting the mistake. The glance passes on. We all breathe again. Fear on Krieg is not shouted. It is measured in withheld air. When the meal ends, we recite the short prayer of digestion. What enters shall fuel the Emperor's will. What exits shall return to the soil. The boy's voice trembles. No one comments. Weakness is private worship. Later, as darkness rolls back over the field, the sergeant orders night rotation. I volunteer for first watch. I always do. Sleep brings memory, and memory brings sound. I climb the firing step and peer through the slit in the sandbags. The world beyond is flat ruin, lit by the intermittent glow of distant shells. The light freezes in the fog, like lightning trapped in glass. In that ghostly illumination, I can see the outlines of the dead still lying where they fell, arms outstretched as if beckoning the next wave forward. For a moment, I imagine removing my mask, tasting the air as it truly is. But the thought vanishes quickly. Unfiltered air is sin. The lungs are the Emperor's altar. They must remain sealed. I tighten the straps until they bite. The hum beneath me returns steady, persistent. It merges with the slow whine of the rebreather until I can no longer tell which is which. A lullaby of machinery and earth. I think of home again. I see the ash dunes, the horizon lined with furnace stacks, the pale sun barely piercing the smoke. I hear the drill sergeants calling numbers, not names. I feel the endless weight of expectation pressing down, shaping us into weapons that prey by function. Perhaps this is what perfection feels like when even the ghosts of thought have been ground into obedience. Midway through the watch, movement stirs at the edge of the trench. A shape crawls from the darkness, a guardsman dragging himself forward, armor torn open, vox crackling weakly. I reach down and pull him over the parapet. His mask is shattered, one lens missing. Through the gap I glimpse a mouth whispering fragments of prayer. "Blessed, soil, blessed," he murmurs. His breath fogs the air with red mist. I press a sealant patch over the crack, but he grabs my wrist, strength returning for an instant. "It's moving," he gasps. "The ground, he's under us." Then his body slackens. The respirator falls silent. I sit beside him until dawn, listening to the twin rhythms. His slowing heart, the steady pulse below. When the Medicaid drone arrives, it hovers briefly, scans, and announces vital signs terminated, material reusable. The mechanical arm extracts the power cell from his last pack, replaces it into storage. The corpse becomes inventory. Before they carry him away, I press his broken mask into the mud facing east, like the one I found before. The ritual comforts me, though I no longer know why. Maybe the soil demands faces to look at. At morning assembly, the sergeant reads the day's quota. Fortification depth, patrol cycles, ammunition count. His voice is a whisper through the Vox grill. No emotion, only precision. When he finishes, we respond in unison. By faith and by spade. The sound is more vibration than speech, a single breath shared among many throats. In that moment, I feel almost clean. But beneath our feet, the hum continues. When the first shells of the new day begin to fall, the noise swallows everything else. The trench shakes. Dust rains down in curtains. The silence inside me remains untouched. Perfect. I cling to it like scripture. If the Emperor truly listens, he listens through quiet hearts. Still, as the bombardment grows nearer, I cannot help imagining that the rhythm of the explosions and the pulse in the soil are the same voice, one above, one below, both calling the faithful to kneel. I kneel. By nightfall, the lines have barely moved. We have gained nothing, lost nothing, proof that the equation balances. The sergeant records the numbers into his data slate, sends them up the Vox. I watch him. His hands shake slightly, not from fear, but fatigue. The tremor makes a soft rattling sound against the metal casing. It reminds me of the bones beneath the ground. Even the strongest metal remembers being ore. When the shift ends, I rest against the trench wall, helmet tipped back. The fog curls overhead, thick as smoke from a dying candle. I close my eyes and let the hum fill me until it becomes indistinguishable from thought. I imagine the soil breathing through me, drawing me down grain by grain. Perhaps that is what faith truly is, not ascent toward heaven, but descent into the earth until nothing separates servant from soil. I do not remember sleeping, only waking the way a machine restarts after being silenced. The trench around me is quiet except for the steady hiss of the respirators, hundreds of men breathing in unison. The sound should comfort me. Instead, It feels too precise, like a choir following an invisible conductor. Each inhale timed, each exhale measured, the rhythm perfect, unnatural in its sameness. I blink through the grime on my lenses. The dawn is a smear of bronze light pressing through the fog. The mud gleams faintly, alive with small bubbles that rise and burst without sound. When I shift, the earth shivers beneath me, subtle, like the tremor of a deep organ note. It is the same hum I felt before, stronger now, louder. It does not fade when the bombardment starts again. It keeps time with it. The sergeant gives the order to prepare the line. We move without words. The earth shakes under each shell, but the vibration below it does not change. It is slower, deliberate, indifferent. A separate rhythm, deeper, patient, certain. We build firing platforms, stacking planks across the trench wall. Each hammer blow echoes strangely, like striking hollow metal. The sound carries farther than it should, vanishing into the ground as though something beneath is listening. I pause mid-swing and feel the vibration return up through the handle, pulsing once, twice, then stopping. I drop the hammer and press my glove to the soil. It beats back at me. Not hard, not violent, just steady, almost gentle. The sergeant notices my stillness and gestures sharply. Work. I obey. I always obey. But my hands shake. By midday, the fog has thickened until sky and ground are the same dull color. The sun cannot pierce it. The world is a single muted tone, like the inside of a shell casing. Every sound is swallowed before it dies. The air smells of ozone and rot. The commissar appears along the trench, moving with mechanical grace. His coat is clean, impossibly clean despite the mud. He carries a data slate and reads from it without looking up. Third company will advance 2 sectors at dusk. Casualty, expectation, 80%. No one reacts. He looks at us as though we are statues. You will be remembered in the Emperor's ledger. His voice contains neither praise nor pity. He moves on. When he passes, I realize the vibration beneath my boots has increased again, not faster, but clearer. I can distinguish layers within it, overlapping frequencies. Almost melodic. A rhythm buried beneath ritual. Later, when the bombardment ceases, I hear it plainly for the first time. It begins as a hum, deep and resonant, rising from the soil in slow intervals. Then faint tones join it, harmonic, as if different strata of the earth are vibrating in sympathy. It is not random. It is patterned. I can feel the intervals like breath between phrases. I turn to 813. He looks at me, tilts his head slightly listening. Then he shakes it once and returns to cleaning his rifle. The motion is too calm, too certain. I realize with cold clarity that perhaps he can't hear it. That perhaps none of them can. The sound grows richer, rising through my bones until the pitch resonates in my teeth. It feels like music played through the marrow. I think of the liturgical choirs of Krieg, thousands chanting below the cathedra, their voices indistinguishable from the drone of machinery. This is like that, but deeper, more ancient. A hymn the planet itself remembers. The vibration stops suddenly. The silence afterward is unbearable. At dusk, we advance. The fog moves with us, rolling like breath from an unseen mouth. Visibility is less than 20 meters. The ground squelches underfoot, sticky with ash and oil. Each step feels like pressing into flesh rather than soil. Ahead, the ruins of an old manufactorum loom jagged silhouettes against a blood-colored sky. When we reach the outer wall, the sergeant signals halt. He divides us into fire teams and points toward the shattered windows. I am assigned to breach with 813 and 2 others. We climb through the hole, boots crunching over spent shells and broken glass. Inside, the air is still. Dust hangs in thick beams of dim red light filtering through the cracks. Then that sound again. Faint, beneath us this time. The hum becomes a chord, a vibration that seems to respond to our presence. The floor trembles as though the building breathes. The dust drifts upward in tiny spirals, caught by an invisible current. Movement? 813 whispers. I shake my head. No movement. Just, I stop. There is no word for what I feel. The others look at me, uncertain. The sergeant's voice comes over the vox. Report. I key the transmitter. Structure clear. No hostiles. My voice sounds wrong in the channel, layered with faint feedback, like another voice humming beneath it. The sergeant acknowledges and cuts the line. The vibration stops again. For a moment, all is still. Then, something answers from below, a low tone that vibrates through the walls. The broken window panes ring faintly, as if struck by invisible hands. 813 flinches. What was? The floor collapses. We fall into darkness. The air rushes past like a wave of dust. My shoulder slams against stone. Pain blooms, sharp and distant. I land in wet mud, ankle deep. The light from above is faint, a trembling square far overhead. Around me, walls of rough stone glisten with moisture. It is some kind of tunnel, old and half collapsed. 813 groans nearby, pulling himself upright. The other two are gone. The vox crackles but carries only static. Beneath it, faintly the hum persists, louder than before. Down here, it is unmistakably melodic, each tone layered, structured, impossibly deliberate. We follow it. The tunnel slopes downward, twisting like a vein beneath the surface. The walls are carved with symbols I do not recognize, circles within circles, etched deep into the stone. Some are filled with what looks like solidified wax, black and glossy. Others pulse faintly with inner light. I touch one. It's warm. The further we go, the stronger the sound becomes, until it no longer seems like vibration at all, but true music, vast, slow, incomprehensible. The frequency moves through me like water through cloth. I can feel it in my pulse, my breath, my skull. I realize that my respirator is sinking to it, filters hissing in rhythm, like a choir breathing in time. Each inhale, each exhale, perfectly spaced to the beat. 813 grabs my arm. We should return, he says. His voice sounds far away, as though buried beneath the sound. We are hearing the Emperor's voice, I answer. He shakes his head violently. That's not. Before he can finish, the tunnel opens into a wide chamber. The sight steals my breath. The chamber is vast, its ceiling lost in darkness. The floor glows faintly with veins of light pulsing in time with the hum. In the center stands a colossal shape, half buried in stone, not a machine. Not quite. Its surface is organic and metallic at once, like fused bone and armor plate. It stretches downward into the rock, its visible portion the size of a basilica. Across its surface, small vents open and close, exhaling steam. Each exhale harmonizes with the music. 813 stumbles backward. But I am already moving forward, drawn by the rhythm. My feet sink into the glowing mud. The closer I get, the stronger the resonance becomes. It is not just sound now, it is thought. Fragments of words pulse through the rhythm, half-formed, as though someone speaks through vibration instead of tongue. Remember. Below. Obedience. I kneel before the shape. My vox crackles, feedback whining sharply, then stabilizes. I hear my own voice whispering through it, repeating the words of the catechism: through death, redemption; through obedience, salvation. But it isn't me speaking. It's the hum using my voice. Completing the litany. 813 screams. Stop! His rifle fires once. The sound shatters the rhythm. The hum falls silent. The air becomes thick and still. Then, from the vents across the shape's surface, thin streams of vapor hiss outward cold. Dry, scented faintly of iron and incense. The steam coils upward like breath. And in the moment before the world goes black, I understand. The earth of Krieg was not barren. It was listening. When I wake, I am back in the trench. The Medicaid drone hovers above, its lens pulsing faint blue. Subject recovered, minor trauma. My uniform is clean, my rifle beside me. 813 is gone. The sergeant stands over me. "You were found unconscious near the Manufactorum ruins," he says through his mask. "You will resume duty at dusk." I start to protest, but the words die in my throat. His gaze lingers a moment longer, then moves on. The hum is gone. At least, I think it is. But when I close my eyes, I can still hear the echo faint, like the aftersound of a struck bell, fading but never fully vanishing. That night, while the others sleep, I find myself whispering the rhythm under my breath, tapping it against the lasgun's stock. The pattern feels right, natural, holy. The soil beneath me shifts, just slightly, as though acknowledging the prayer. The ground is wrong again. It moves when it should rest. It exhales when we dig. The shovel's edge meets resistance, not stone, not bone, but something that yields like wet cloth and then stiffens again, refusing the gift of the grave. We are burying the day's losses. 42 bodies, wrapped in tarred canvas, tagged, folded, numbered. The air is still, the sky a rusted bruise. The work should be simple, yet the pit we carve keeps filling itself, the mud sliding back as if pushed from below. Each shovelful we cast out returns, heavier. It is like trying to teach the earth to forget, and the earth will not learn. The sergeant's voice clicks through the vox, flat and certain. "Continue. The soil is dense. Dig deeper." We obey. We always obey. By the third hour, the first body slips from its canvas. The face beneath the mask is gray, featureless, lips drawn tight as if in prayer. The skin has not softened. It looks waxed, preserved. The Medicaid drone hovers overhead, lens blinking blue. Decomposition, nil. Cause of death, kinetic trauma. Recommend incineration. The sergeant ignores it. "We bury," he says. "As is custom, we lay the body in the pit." The mud accepts it for a moment, then heaves slowly, almost politely until the corpse rises half out again, tilted sideways like a relic denied entry. 813 mutters the second catechism under his breath. His voice cracks on the last line. No one corrects him. The sergeant orders a new pit dug further down the line. The first he marks with a broken spade driven into the mud like a warning. We move without speaking. Even the drones keep their altitude, their thrumming muffled as though reluctant to listen. As I dig, I feel the hum beneath the ground again. Not distant, now close, intimate, pulsing between each stroke of the shovel. The vibration syncs with my heartbeat until I can't tell which began first. When the blade bites the earth, a faint tone sings up the handle, metal against marrow. I strike again, and again the note answers. Higher this time, almost joyful. I stop. The others keep working. I rest my palm on the raw edge of the pit. The soil feels warm, alive, breathing in slow pulses. I think of the shape I saw beneath the Manufactorum, the vast body sunk in stone, its vents exhaling prayer. Perhaps the whole world is built on its flesh. Perhaps we have been digging through its skin. The thought should horrify me. It comforts instead. If the Emperor made all things, then this too is his creation. Perhaps we are meant to feed it with our dead. By the 6th hour, the pit has deepened to the height of a man. The light above is red and far. The walls ooze, sweating dark water that smells faintly of oil and blood. Each droplet falls with perfect rhythm. Tick, tick, tick like a metronome, keeping time for our labor. We lower the second body in. The canvas sinks halfway, then stops. The sergeant gestures for us to push it down. We press with the spades, with boots, with weight. The mud pushes back a steady, rising pressure until the corpse slides sideways and floats upward again, buoyed by something unseen. Gas pocket, 813 mutters. Subsurface compression, but I see his hands trembling. He knows it is not that. The gas here is inert. We burned it away weeks ago. The sergeant's vox clicks once, the signal for pause. He kneels, gloved hand on the soil, head bowed as if listening for orders from beneath. His mask tilts slightly, the lenses catching the dim light. Deeper, he says. We bury them in faith. We dig until the edges of the pit blur with mist. Each strike of the shovel sends a tone through the ground, harmonic, resonant. The notes rise in pitch as the pit widens, as if the world is tuning itself to us. When the sergeant finally signals stop, the hum resolves into a single low chord that vibrates through our bones. Then the bodies begin to move. It happens slowly, without drama. The canvas shrouds ripple, twitch once, twice, then still. I think it is the settling of mud until one of them arches upward, stiff as a board, arms flexing under the wrappings. The Medicaid drone chirps, confused. Residual kinetic discharge detected. It says, Korps reflex. Improbable. The sergeant raises his sidearm. No one breathes. The movement ceases. The bodies lie still again, half sunken, half emerged, their forms glistening with a faint sheen of oil. Bury them, he says. His tone does not change. Now, we obey. We shovel faster, dirt cascading over the still forms until they vanish. The mud sighs when the last is covered. The vibration in the ground fades to a soft murmur. For a moment, the world holds its breath. Then, behind me, I hear the first muffled thud. A second follows, then a third. The surface of the pit trembles. 813 steps back, his shovel slipping from his hand. The soil pulses upward in small waves, each thud perfectly spaced, like a heartbeat too large for the body that contains it. We back away in silence. The sergeant lowers his weapon. Mark it, he says. His voice is soft, almost reverent. Do not disturb again. He drives another spade into the earth. The metal sinks deeper than it should, swallowed as if by breath. When he releases it, the handle hums faintly a single sustained note that lingers in the fog long after we have turned away. That night, none of us sleep. The trench is too quiet. Even the wind seems to have withdrawn. I sit against the wall with my rifle across my knees, eyes fixed on the section of ground where we buried the 42. It glows faintly in the dark, not with light, but with the suggestion of it, a dim pallor that shifts beneath the mist, like the reflection of something buried deep. 813 sits beside me. His mask is off. I should report him for it, but I don't. His face is pale, eyes rimmed with red, lips cracked from filtered air. He holds the mask in his lap like a relic. Can you hear them? He whispers. I nod. I can. The thuds have grown fainter, but the vibration remains rhythmic, patient, steady as faith. It comes up through the boards, through our boots, through the thin flesh of our legs. It feels like breathing. They don't decay, he says. None of them do, even the ones from the first push. Have you noticed? I have. We all have. The bodies we buried weeks ago are still whole, their skin leathery but unbroken. The mud preserves them perfectly. The commissar says it is a blessing, proof that the emperor keeps them pure. But I have begun to think purity and preservation are not the same. 813 replaces his mask and turns away. The sound of his respirator joins the chorus, the endless hiss and sigh of filtered breath. I match my rhythm to his. For a time, I can almost believe we are still alive. At dawn, we receive orders to move the line forward again. The sergeant's voice is low and clipped. Advance 300 meters, construct new trench, old line to be sealed. Sealed, not abandoned. That word matters. We march through fog that tastes of iron. Behind us, The old trench fades into the mist. I glance back once. The earth over the graves ripples as we pass. Small concentric circles spreading outward, like raindrops without rain. We dig the new line until dusk. The soil here is darker, heavier, saturated with oil. Every shovelful releases a faint hiss, as though the mud resents being disturbed. My arms ache, but I do not stop. None of us do. Movement is the only thing that keeps the silence from speaking. When the first bombardment of the evening begins, I feel the vibration again, stronger, clearer, no longer beneath us, but around us, as if the whole crust of the planet has become an organ pipe resonating with breath. The sound swells until it fills the sky. I see 813 look up, eyes wide behind the lenses. "It's singing," he says, and though I cannot hear words, I know he is right. The mud at our feet begins to shift. A pale hand breaks the surface, slick with black oil, fingers curling upward toward the light. Then another, and another. All along the sealed trench line behind us, forms rise half-born from the earth, still wrapped in canvas. They do not move beyond that gesture. They simply reach, palms open, as though begging for remembrance or breath. The sergeant raises his pistol but does not fire. His voice over the vox is slow, deliberate. "Do not engage. Hold position." No one moves. We stand as statues while the dead reach for us through the mist. Their fingers stretch higher, trembling in the air, then lower again, sinking back into the soil. The fog swallows them whole. The ground closes with a sigh. 813 makes the sign of the Aquila across his chest. His hands are shaking. "They wanted to stand," he says. I answer without thinking. They obeyed the order to remain, and the hum beneath our feet approves. At last, night. The fog thickens until even the flares above us look like distant stars viewed through black water. The trench lights flicker, drowning in the mist. The hum beneath us has grown constant now, no longer pulsing but droning a long, low note that vibrates in the ribs. I feel it through the rebreather, through my bones, through the iron plates of the trench wall. It has become the only sound left in the world. The sergeant orders a rotation. Half the men rest, half remain at post. I volunteer for the watch again. 813 stays too. We stand at the edge of the trench, staring into the shifting fog where the dead had risen. "There's a pattern," he says after a while. "Every time we bury, they move closer. Every night." He's right. The line of disturbed soil has advanced maybe 20 meters since dusk, subtle but visible, like the tide. The ground itself is creeping toward us. I want to say that it's impossible, that the world doesn't move like that. But I have seen the manufactorum's depths, the thing beneath the stone, the vents that breathed prayer. I no longer know what the world should or shouldn't do. The hum deepens suddenly, and for an instant I feel pressure in my chest as though something is breathing through me. The respirator hisses in rhythm, faster, until I match it without meaning. 2. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale, a pulse shared between body and earth. It feels good. It feels holy. I hear voices, then faint, muffled, layered within the drone. They are not words, but tones arranged like speech. When I concentrate, I can almost make sense of them. Like fragments of an old litany, we endure, we wait, we are remembered. 813 grips my arm. "You hear them too?" "Ah," I nod. "They're not angry." "No," he whispers. "They're lonely." We stand together, listening. The air around us vibrates gently, like the plucked string of a vast instrument. Each breath becomes part of the harmony. The fog shimmers. For a heartbeat, I imagine the entire regiment standing beneath the earth, still breathing, still obedient, still waiting for orders. Perhaps death is just another trench deeper, quieter, without sky. Then the vibration stops. The silence that follows is unbearable. It is not absence, but expectation. A pause before the next hymn. The ground shifts once more, and I realize the soil has crept to the edge of my boots. It rises in slow ripples around my ankles, warm as blood. 813 reaches to pull me back, but I don't move. The earth presses against my legs, and for an instant I feel it welcoming me, not as prey, but as pilgrim. The hum returns softer now, intimate, almost tender. It whispers through the ground. Stay. I step back, gasping. The sound fades, leaving only my own breath rasping through the filters. 813 stares at me through the lenses of his mask, eyes wide. "You were sinking," he says. "I was listening," I answer. The sergeant's voice crackles over the vox, breaking the moment. "Prepare to move." The line advances at dawn. We both turn to obey. But as we gather our gear, I glance once more toward the sealed trench behind us. The ground is still, perfectly smooth. Only the faintest impression remains, the shape of hands pressed into mud, reaching upward in praise or plea. The hum does not return that night. The silence that replaces it is worse. The first shell never lands. It hangs above us, motionless. A black silhouette suspended in the crimson haze. I see it clearly, every rivet, every groove outlined by the frozen flare that birthed it. The light itself no longer burns. It waits, caught between ignition and memory. The trench falls silent. Even the rebreathers stutter. Then still. The air has weight, heavy and perfect, as though the world has inhaled and forgotten how to exhale. I raise my eyes. Hundreds of shells, thousands, drift above the horizon, an iron constellation fixed in mid-descent. The fog around them glows with reflected firelight that refuses to move. Smoke forms pillars that never curl. A war, painted onto glass. 813 stands beside me, one hand lifted, finger tracing a line through the air. The motion leaves no ripple. His voice crackles through the vox, small and frightened. "It stopped," he whispers. "Yes. How?" "The Emperor holds time," I say, though I do not believe it. The sergeant walks along the trench boards, boots soundless. He tests the vox. No response. The blue indicator lights flicker but do not change. He glances upward once, then at us. "Maintain position," he says. His words emerge slow, distorted, like echoes from underwater. They hang in the air long after his mouth closes. I touch my rifle. The metal is warm. The vibration from below is still there, steady, unhurried. It did not stop when the world did. It is the only movement left. The hours do not pass. There is no dusk, no dawn. The light remains fixed in that red half-glow. The men move in slow, uncertain gestures, as if underwater. We try to measure time by breath, but even breathing has changed. Drawn out, viscous, reluctant. 813 writes a tally in the mud, lines that stay wet and glistening. They do not dry. He keeps adding to them, though the marks never alter. When I lift my eyes again, I see figures on the ridge beyond the no-man's land, enemy soldiers frozen in mid-charge, their bodies caught in poses of agony or prayer. One is leaning forward, mouth open, a strand of blood hanging from his lip like thread. It shines, unmoving, perfect. I climb the ladder to the parapet. No one stops me. The sergeant watches but says nothing. The air resists movement, thick as honey. When I reach the top, I look out across the field. Every explosion is a sculpture, every corpse a statue. The smoke hangs in folds like fabric suspended from heaven. It is beautiful in a way that makes the heart ache, a holiness carved from ruin. And beneath it all, the hum continues. The hum grows louder when I stand atop the parapet. It vibrates through the soles of my boots, through the iron of the trench braces, through the bones of my legs. I kneel and place my hand on the frozen mud. The rhythm is precise, slower than a heartbeat, but alive. It feels closer now, no longer deep beneath the surface, but rising, curious, expectant. The stillness of the world makes small sounds enormous. The creak of my armor echoes for seconds. My breath condenses and stays suspended before my mask, a thin veil of mist that refuses to disperse. I wave it aside. It drifts back into shape. The sky above looks painted, clouds frozen mid-whirl. Even light itself feels solid, an unmoving tide pressing against the eyes. 813 climbs up behind me. His voice hisses through the vox. Everything stopped, except us. Perhaps we are already dead, I answer. He shakes his head. No, I can feel it too. He presses a glove to the ground beside mine. It's singing to us. The word fits. The hum is no longer a single note. It has harmonics now, weaving in slow intervals. I can pick out patterns, 3 beats of silence, then a rise, then a fall. It repeats, patient, purposeful. I realize I'm matching it unconsciously, drawing breath in the same rhythm. Far across the field, the frozen soldiers begin to move. At first, it is only their clothing, a flutter of fabric without wind, a shimmer of dust sliding from helmets. Then one arm, then another, joints flexing soundlessly. The motion is not life but mimicry, a puppet relearning a forgotten gesture. Their eyes remain glassed, unblinking. They move as the hum commands, slow, mechanical, synchronized. 813 gasps. They're marching. No, I whisper. They're praying. The enemy and the dead of Krieg move together, rising from their places of death, stepping forward into the still air. They meet in the center of the no man's land, not with weapons but with raised hands, palms upward. The hum deepens, resonating through their bodies until dust and ash lift from their uniforms in spirals. The sergeant shouts for us to hold fire, but his voice lags, stretched into echo. The men below obey anyway. The sound of command is unnecessary now. The world listens to the rhythm beneath it. I descend the ladder, slower this time, each step deliberate. The trench feels narrower, as though the walls have drawn inward. The lamps overhead burn without flicker, their flames solid cones of light. 813 follows behind me. His breath, loud in the voxlink. What is it? He asks. I don't know. You think it's him? I hesitate. I think it remembers him. We stand in silence. The hum rises to a low chant, layered now with faint human tones. Voices not ours, countless, overlapping. A language without words, older than any creed. It sounds like worship that has forgotten its God. Then the vibration stops, and the shells hanging above begin to turn. Not fall, turn their points, tilting away from the earth, toward the stars. A rain rewound, an ending denied. The light brightens, white and cold. Every shadow lengthens backward. I close my eyes. The last thing I feel before the world shudders again is the soil shifting beneath my feet, breathing out a sigh too vast for lungs. When the movement returns, it is not gradual. It arrives all at once, like the first inhale after drowning. The air convulses. The light collapses back into motion. The shells resume their descent. Sound returns as a single unbearable roar. The sky erupts. The ground beneath the trench bucks like a wounded creature. I fall to my knees as shock waves tear through the line. The world shakes, alive again and furious. The hum that had once felt like prayer becomes a howl, deep and discordant. The shells crash down in a continuous scream of light. Through the blur of motion, I see 813 thrown backward, his body striking the wall. I crawl toward him, but before I reach him, a detonation erupts in the pit behind me. Heat rushes across my back, searing, then gone. Smoke fills the trench. The rebreather filters cannot keep pace. I taste ash, raw and bitter. When the smoke clears, the world is changed. The sky still burns, but the bombardment has shifted direction. The shells are not falling on us anymore. They arc upward, vanishing into the clouds like sparks drawn back to a forge. Every gun on the field, Imperial and enemy alike, fires toward heaven. 813 sits up slowly, dazed. "They're shooting at the sky," he says. I look at the glowing trails ascending, countless lines of fire piercing the red clouds. Each one disappears silently, swallowed by the frozen firmament. "No," I whisper. "They're answering it." The hum returns deeper, wider than before. It rolls through the clouds and down into the earth, shaking loose the dust from the trench walls. My teeth ache with it. The ground ripples, not as tremor, but as wave. The mud surges and recedes like a tide obeying a buried moon. For the first time, I feel afraid. It is not reverence anymore. It is recognition. The sergeant's voice bursts through the vox, distorted and raw. "Hold positions. This is a temporal anomaly. Reinforcements en route." Static devours his words, leaving only the hiss of empty channels. I look up again. The clouds have parted into a single, perfect circle. At its center glows a pale white void. Flat and depthless, it does not shine, it absorbs. Every line of fire drawn upward bends toward it, consumed without light or sound. The sight fills me with longing. The same kind of longing I felt as a child before the icon of the Emperor. An ache not to see, but to join. 813 grips my arm. "It's calling," he says. I nod. Everything is. The ground shifts once more. Beneath the roar of artillery and wind, I hear movement, thousands of small impacts, wet and rhythmic. The soil at the base of the trench stirs. Pale shapes push through the mud, hands, torsos, faces without color. The buried dead of Krieg rise again, mouths sealed by respirators, eyes blank behind glass. They do not attack, they stand. Their rebreathers hiss in perfect unison, forming a single drawn-out chord that merges with the hum above. The sound builds until it is almost music, almost prayer. I realize the ground's vibration and the sky's roar have become one continuous tone, a bridge between above and below. The sergeant opens his mouth to command, but no words come. The sound swallows him. We all stand there, living and dead, human and not faces lifted toward the light that is not light. The sky begins to bend. The clouds draw inward, folding like fabric around the circle. The color drains from everything. The only hue left is the dull rust of our coats, the same color as the soil. The line between body and ground fades. The world becomes monochrome devotion. Then, just as suddenly, the sound stops. The shells vanish. The light closes. We are left standing in darkness. Silence descends like ash. It is not the calm after battle, it is absence. The world exhales and forgets to breathe again. Smoke drifts without direction. Every figure, living and dead, stands unmoving, transfixed by the void that was once the sky. No color, no sound, only the faint crackle of cooling metal. I feel my own pulse falter, then settle into a slower rhythm, the same slow rhythm that has haunted me since the Manufactorum. I place my hand on my chest, and beneath my glove, the beat no longer feels like mine. It is the same vibration that moves through the earth, through the graves, through everything that still stands. Something beneath the soil has learned to breathe through us. The sergeant lowers his weapon. His lenses reflect nothing now, only darkness. Around him, the risen dead begin to sink again, one by one, without struggle. The mud closes over them gently, reverently. 813 kneels beside one, pressing his hand to its mask. "They're going back," he murmurs. "To rest?" I ask. He shakes his head. "To wait." The fog settles lower. The stars have not returned. The sky is a blank wound. I cannot tell if the battle ended or if the concept of ending has been erased. Only one certainty remains. The hum is gone. Its absence aches like missing breath. I look to 813. His posture is slumped, exhausted. He removes his helmet and lets the mist touch his face. For a moment he looks almost peaceful, his eyes reflecting the dull gleam of the mud. Then his expression changes. "It's still there," he says softly. "Listen." I listen. Nothing. He smiles, a small, fragile thing, and steps forward out of the trench. "Don't." The word barely escapes my throat. He wades into the no-man's land where the dead had stood, his boots sinking ankle-deep in the sluggish earth. Each step leaves no print. When he reaches the center, he stops and looks upward at the blankness. He stands that way for a long time, unmoving, as if waiting for instruction. Then he simply tilts forward. The mud opens, receives him whole, closes without ripple. The surface remains unbroken, calm, complete. Only the faintest ring of disturbed soil marks the place. I do not move for a long while. The trench behind me feels hollow. The world feels paused again, but not in time, in thought. The idea of motion has left. I whisper his number once into the mask, a useless memorial. The air tastes of dust and faith. When orders finally come through the vox, hours later, static resolving into the cold voice of the commissar I can barely hear. "Advance 300 meters, redeploy." The words sound old, rehearsed, part of a loop that has never ended. I rise. My legs obey, though my mind hesitates. I look once more at the smooth field where the sky once stood still. It looks peaceful, holy even. The earth is quiet. The sky does not move. I think it never will again. The first time I hear it, I think it is only feedback. A soft tremor through the vox grill, the kind of distortion that comes when filters clog with ash. But the noise persists. Low, human, breathing where breath should not be. I strike the side of the mask. Once, twice, the sound remains. Then, very quietly, it says my name, not the number the regiment gave me. The other one, the name I had before the drills erased it. I have not heard it spoken since childhood. The syllables fall into the space between heartbeats, tender and exact. I freeze. The trench around me is empty, except for the murmur of wind moving through broken boards. Who is there? Static answers. Then the whisper again, closer, just behind the filters. Breathe. I obey. The intake valve sighs. The exhale rasp follows. The rhythm is not mine anymore. It sets itself, calm and steady, drawing the lungs into cadence. For a moment I feel weightless, like the mask itself is carrying the act of life for me. When the sergeant passes, I straighten. He nods once and moves on. He hears nothing. The whisper hides between the mechanical sounds, buried perfectly inside regulation breathing. I return to my post. The fog is dense tonight, heavy with a scent like rusted incense. The lamps flicker under a thin crust of frost. Every sound feels dampened, intimate. The whisper comes again, gentle as prayer. "You need not dig tonight." I lower my shovel. My arms ache from the last burial detail. The command feels merciful. "Who speaks?" I ask. The mask exhales softly, like amusement. "The ones who remember." The filters hiss. The sound shifts into a hum that matches the soil beneath. The tone is warm, almost kind. I think of 813 sinking into the earth, of the others before him. Perhaps the dead are not gone, but distributed, part breath, part ground, part voice, carried by these machines. The whisper returns. "You buried us wrong." The words are not accusation, they are simple truth. I bow my head. I did what I was ordered. Orders end, it says. Obedience does not. A chill passes through the mask, frost forming along the metal ribs. My breath steams inward, not outward, drawn back into the filters, as if the machine wants to keep it. The whisper fades into the hum. leaving only my pulse echoing in my ears. I stand there for a long time, listening. The air tastes different now, thicker, sweeter, like the moment before communion. I realize the mask has stopped hissing altogether, yet I am still breathing. The stillness lingers. I should not be alive, no intake, no exhaust, no cycle of air, yet my chest rises and falls in calm rhythm. Each breath glides smoother than the one before, silent as thought. The world around me feels distant, dulled, like sound filtered through water. Then the voice returns, softer, layered now with faint echoes as if more than one speaker uses the same mouth. Do you remember what your face looked like? The question strikes deeper than fear. I have not seen my face since enlistment. We are not allowed mirrors. Reflection breeds vanity. Vanity breeds sin. But as the voice speaks, fragments of memory surface, eyes gray with ash, skin pale from the underground light, a scar at the corner of the mouth. The image is fleeting, but it feels like touch after decades of gloves. You were a child in the vaults, it continues. You recited the creed even in sleep. I still do, I whisper. No. Now you only listen. The tone is not mocking, it is tender, regretful. I feel warmth spreading inside the mask, a slow mist forming on the lenses from within. Shapes flicker in the fog faces, hundreds of them, overlapping. They drift across my vision like phantoms pressing against glass, whispering fragments of litany. Their words flow through the respirator's tubing, each syllable merging into the sound of breath itself. Who are you? The chorus answers in perfect unison. We are the air you saved us from. The meaning unfurls slowly. Each time we sealed a mask over a dying soldier, each time we pumped filtered air into the lungs of the condemned, we captured something. Breath held long enough becomes memory. Memory, confined, becomes voice. The rebreathers are full of them. I stagger back against the trench wall. The ground feels unsteady, fluid. Around me, the other guardsmen stand in their stations, motionless as statues, masks tilted upward toward the invisible sky. Their filters exhale faint steam that curls together above the trench like incense. I realize I can hear their breathing as a chord, harmonized, deliberate. The mask has made a choir. The voice whispers again, threaded through the collective hiss. The Emperor's breath fills all things, even what he forgets. My throat tightens. Then what are we? Echoes. Remembered obedience. The sound of faith after it ends. The words settle inside me like ash in oil. The chorus fades until only one whisper remains quiet. Almost kind. We have been waiting for you to listen. I run my gloved fingers along the mask's grill, feeling the faint vibration that pulses beneath the metal. It beats with the rhythm of a heart. Mine or theirs, I cannot tell. The noise of the trench around me has softened. The distant artillery thuds, the wind's low moan, the hiss of 1,000 respirators merging into a single slow inhalation. The world feels like one vast lung drawing in its final breath. I rise, the motion automatic, and begin to walk the line. Each step stirs a response in the mask, tiny murmurs that grow into words. Left, right, breathe. Every order matches my movement. Every pause echoed by the rhythm of the hidden choir inside the filters. For the first time in years, obedience feels effortless. The body moves before thought. The mind follows after. I pass the sergeant standing at his post. His mask is still. No hiss, no whisper, no steam. He turns his head slightly, the motion stiff and uncertain. Report, he says. The voice inside me answers for me through the vox. We are listening. The sergeant steps back as if struck. Who spoke? I did. I say, but the words don't sound like mine. The tone carries depth, resonance, too many harmonics for one throat. He raises a hand as if to command silence. But the other soldiers are turning now, heads tilting in unison toward the sound. Their respirators echo my breath, a perfect harmony, in and out, one endless litany. The sergeant lowers his arm slowly, uncertain, and for a moment, I think he too hears it. His posture loosens, his shoulders sink. "Blessed be the breath that endures," he whispers, an old Krieg phrase spoken only at the moment of death. The moment he says it, the trench lights flicker and the air thickens again with fog. Inside the mask, the whisper changes. He joins us. The sergeant's body stiffens, then relaxes. His weapon slips from his grasp. A hiss escapes his respirator, long, final. He does not fall. He simply stands. I know then that the voice in his mask has taken its first breath. Around us, the others remain silent, unmoving. The fog coils higher, tasting of old oil and sanctified decay. The whisper that has guided me all night swells in volume until it fills the entire world. "Do not be afraid," it says. There is peace in continuation, and I realize this is what the Emperor's protection has always meant. Not safety, but stillness. Not life, but function unending. I should report this. I should reach for the Vox, send word up the line. But my fingers remain still. The whisper hums inside my skull, patient, almost tender. No need for words. Words are waste. We understand each other now. I stand in the center of the trench, the fog curling around my legs. The others remain at their posts, motionless, respirators exhaling in perfect rhythm. The air thrums like the interior of a vast engine. Each sound, each breath, fits into the same unseen pattern. "You have carried us faithfully," the voice continues. "Now, let us carry you." I feel it then, the faint pull inward, as if every breath I draw is being guided not by lungs but by hands beneath the mask. My thoughts scatter like dust in wind. The boundaries between self and voice blur. 100 whispers echo inside me, rising and falling, forming syllables of a language older than prayer. My knees weaken. I fall to the mud. The ground pulses once beneath my palms, welcoming. I can see the glow within the respirator lenses of the soldiers nearby, tiny reflections of the same dull red that seeps from mine. They are all listening, all obeying, all becoming. The whisper speaks again. A single voice made from many. The Emperor's silence is not absence. It is invitation. Something inside me yields. My chest expands until the air burns. When I exhale, the sound that leaves the mask is not my own voice. It is a deep, resonant chord that merges with every other breath in the trench, forming a harmony that stretches beyond hearing. The vibration fills the world. It is not song, not speech, only continuation. For a moment, I sense the presence beneath the soil listening. It feels pleased. The hum from the earth and the hymn from our respirators entwine like two lungs, finally learning to breathe as one. I open my eyes. The fog glows faintly, pulsing in rhythm with our breath. The shapes of my comrades dissolve into the light. Their masks remain, suspended above the ground like icons, lenses shining softly. My hands feel lighter. The whisper grows distant, but satisfied. "Rest. We will remember your breath." I set down my rifle. The mud accepts it with a quiet sigh. My final thought before the light swallows, everything is simple and clean. If the Emperor protects, then perhaps he does so by making sure we never truly stop. I do not dream anymore. When I close my eyes, I only see corridors of soil stretching downward, ribbed with planks and bones. They breathe when I breathe, exhale when I do not. Every night the whisper in the mask tells me to follow them. Tonight I obey. The upper line is abandoned. The lamps are cold, the trenches half collapsed under their own weight. The wind carries the smell of rusted iron and old incense, what the priests call the scent of faith fulfilled. I step carefully, boots sinking with a sigh into the soft mud that remembers names better than men do. The entrance reveals itself where the last shell struck. The blast tore open a narrow wound in the earth, a tunnel sloping downward, reinforced with ancient timber. The boards glisten with moisture. The air that seeps from below is warm, stale, and rhythmic, like the exhale of a giant sleeping beneath the crust. The voice in my mask hums faintly, its tone patient and coaxing. Below. It murmurs. Below is where they never stopped. I descend. Each rung of the ladder vibrates under my hands, alive with distant resonance. The light from above shrinks to a pale coin, swallowed by darkness. The mud on the walls shines faintly with phosphorescent veins, pale green threads that pulse in time with my heartbeat. The deeper I go, the quieter the world becomes, until even my own breath sounds like sacrilege. At the bottom lies a chamber carved from clay and bone, its ceiling supported by ribs of rusted rebar. Trenches extend from it in every direction, narrow, perfect replicas of the ones above. I step into one and feel the air change. Thicker, older, saturated with a memory too heavy to carry. Shapes move ahead in the gloom. I lift my lamp. The beam catches rows of figures standing shoulder to shoulder, uniforms caked with centuries of dust. Their masks are fused with their faces, glass lenses opaque with age. Yet their chests rise and fall in slow, mechanical rhythm. They are breathing. The forgotten, whispers the voice. They never received new orders. I move among them. None turn to look. Their weapons are rusted, their fingers locked around the stocks. Every movement of mine echoes down the tunnel like the drop of a stone into water. Somewhere far below, a deeper sound answers an answering breath drawn through miles of earth. I realize the tunnel walls are inscribed with words scratched by knives and fingernails. Repetition, endless. Hold the line, hold the line, hold the line. Each phrase etched until the letters blur into grooves. The mask hums again, louder. They hold still. So must you. I move deeper. The air grows warmer, almost humid. Each breath thick with the scent of oil and salt. The phosphorescent veins along the walls pulse faster now, brightening whenever I pass. It feels as though the tunnels themselves are aware of me, watching, waiting. The rows of soldiers extend without end. Their bodies are mummified in dust, their weapons fused to their bones. Yet every one of them breathes. The sound of it builds into a low wind that flows down the corridor, a tide of slow exhalation. Each inhale is unity, each exhale a prayer. The rhythm fills the space, a heartbeat too large for the body of a world. I stop beside one of them. His coat bears the same regimental mark as mine, Krieg 143rd Siege, my own unit. The insignia has not changed in generations. I wipe grime from his mask. Beneath the layer of soot, I glimpse my own reflection in the glass, faint and distorted, as if I'm looking into water. For a moment, I think the reflection moves before I do. The whisper in my respirator softens into something almost affectionate. They are you. You are them. Continuation. Continuation. A shudder runs through the line of corpses, subtle as wind in reeds. Heads tilt, not in alarm but recognition. The breathing deepens, drawing me into its pattern. My own lungs begin to match their tempo without conscious thought. The voice murmurs, "Good, join cadence." I can feel the weight of centuries pressing through the air, the sum of every order ever given on this world. The trench seems to lean inward, narrowing, drawing me deeper. I pass more figures, countless ranks, each identical, each bound to the same perpetual inhalation. Some still hold banners crumbling to threads. The words upon them are gone. Yet I sense what they once declared. Obedience without end. A sudden gust passes through the tunnel, cold and sweet. The lights dim, then flare. For a moment the air seems to shimmer with faint shapes, columns, cathedra, organ pipes of stone, impossible architecture that flickers like a memory. The vision fades, leaving the same suffocating earth around me. The voice hums again. "Farther below, There is the heart. I glance behind. The tunnel entrance is lost in darkness. The breathing of the dead fades into the distance, replaced by another sound. The slow, deliberate rhythm of marching. Faint at first, then stronger, echoing upward through the clay. It comes from below, steady as a metronome of stone. Something is moving down there. Not in chaos, not in hunger and discipline. The sound of marching grows clearer with every step. It is not the heavy stamp of a charge, nor the disorganized shuffle of the damned. It is deliberate, measured, endless. The cadence of a regiment that has never been dismissed. The tunnel floor begins to tremble in time with it. Dust sifts from the ceiling, glittering faintly in the phosphor light. I follow the rhythm deeper until the trench opens into a vast subterranean hall, an old supply depot repurposed by the weight of centuries. The space is immense, supported by pillars of compacted earth reinforced with the bones of titanic machines. It smells of oil and devotion, and they are everywhere. Rows upon rows of soldiers, endless in every direction, marching in circles that intersect like gears. Each line moves with machine precision, boots pressing into the same imprints worn smooth over ages. Their masks gleam in the phosphorescent glow, lenses catching the faint green light so they appear faceless, insectile. The sound of their synchronized breathing and footfalls merges into a single pulse that fills the air. The resonance pushes gently against my chest, coaxing my lungs to match it. "The heart," whispers the voice. They keep it alive. I stand at the edge of the moving formations. No one acknowledges me, yet gaps open in the ranks as if to allow passage. I step between them, careful not to break rhythm. The heat here is immense, the air vibrating with motion. Each breath I take draws in the scent of sanctified decay, dust, oil, sweat, and faint incense long burned away. As I walk, the mask hums more insistently. They never received the final order. They were told to endure. They endure still. I feel tears on my cheeks, though I do not know why. The sound is beautiful, the devotion absolute. It is everything we were taught to be. At the center of the chamber stands a colossal figure, larger than any man, encased in corroded armor so ancient it might as well be part of the earth. The cables from his chest run into the ground itself, feeding some hidden mechanism below. His mask is different, elongated, fused to the breastplate. I realize with horror and awe that it breathes, slow and deep, in perfect time with the marching around it. The voice in my respirator falls silent for the first time. I understand why. This figure is the source, the pulse of the soil, the hum beneath the trenches, the rhythm that binds the dead, all of it flows from him. He exhales once. The air that leaves his mask tastes of ancient incense and iron. It fills the cavern, carrying a single thought that needs no words. Continue. And they do. The soldiers march. The earth vibrates. I breathe. Continuation. I stand before the figure for what feels like an hour, though time has lost meaning here. The air glows faintly green, and every breath I draw seems borrowed. The mask's whisper returns, subdued, reverent. He is the beginning of us, the first breath that never left the world. The colossal shape shifts slightly, an exhale that moves the air like a tide. The soldiers pause mid-step, heads turning toward him. The motion is not command but instinct, as if the pulse of obedience passes through the soil into their bones. I feel it too. My knees fold without choice. "Do you understand?" The whisper asks. Yes. I manage. He is the heart. He is the heart. No. You are. He only remembers the rhythm. I look down. The phosphorescent veins in the floor have crawled up my boots, winding over my legs like roots. They pulse faintly with the same light that shines through the ancient giant's armor. Each throb matches my heartbeat, until I cannot tell which belongs to whom. When I try to move, the soil holds me not cruelly, but with the weight of purpose. A new sound ripples through the hall. A low, harmonic drone. The marching stops. Thousands of soldiers face the center, heads bowed. The figure's chest rises one last time and holds. The air stills. Then, from every mask in the chamber, a single word emerges in perfect unison. A whisper of metal and breath. Hold. The floor quakes. The light within the veins flares, racing outward through the tunnels. I feel it surge through my body, into the mask, into every fiber of my uniform. It is not pain, it is belonging. My lungs fill with something heavier than air, a communion of dust and prayer. The whisper inside me dissolves into that sound. Its final words soft and content. We are all below now. The giant's armor splits with a slow hiss. From within pours a thick black mist that smells of ash and old incense. It rolls over the ranks, over me, gentle as nightfall. Wherever it touches, soldiers stiffen, their movements halting. Then still, they become statues of mud and memory, their final exhale hanging in the air like incense smoke. When it reaches me, I feel no fear. I lift my faceplate, draw the mist in, and breathe. It fills me, warm and endless. The last sound I hear is the synchronized intake of 10,000 lungs, one final act of obedience drawn together. Then there is only stillness, beautiful, perfect, unbroken. Beneath the earth, the regiments of Krieg continue to stand, waiting for an order that will never come. Above, the soil hums softly, the planet's slow heartbeat echoing our own. I am not certain where my breath ends anymore, or if it ever did. I wake to light. Not the red haze of battle nor the green shimmer of the tunnels, but a thin, colorless glow seeping through cracks in the earth. It does not burn, it only reveals. I lie still for a moment, listening. There is no hum now, no whisper, no sound of breath but my own. Even that feels muted, as though drawn through heavy cloth. The mask is gone. My face is bare. The air tastes clean in a way I do not trust. I rise slowly. The chamber where I stood among the endless ranks has collapsed inward, its walls folded like the petals of a dead flower. The soldiers who filled it are gone, no bones, no armor, only impressions in the mud where they had once stood. Each shape is perfect, preserved, a negative space where devotion once lived. I begin to walk. The floor is soft, pulsing faintly with residual warmth. The phosphorescent veins have gone dark. As I pass, flakes of dried soil drift from the ceiling, falling in spirals that glimmer briefly before fading. It feels as though the world is exhaling its last breath. The vox in my ear crackles once. A voice filters through faint, bureaucratic, the tone of command long forgotten. Unit 317, respond. Confirm survival and redeploy. Static follows. Then nothing. The channel is dead. I touch the side of my helmet out of habit and find it smooth, featureless. The connection is gone. For the first time, I am unlinked from the chorus. The silence feels wrong, immense, holy. I walk upward, following the faint slope where the tunnels once led. The air grows cooler, drier. My footsteps echo in a way they never did before, each sound unshared, belonging only to me. The idea is strange, almost indecent. The surface reveals itself gradually. A thin film of daylight seeping through a fissure ahead. I dig at it with my hands until the soil gives way, and a rush of cold wind floods the tunnel. It smells of nothing, no ash, no incense, no oil. Only emptiness. When I emerge, the battlefield is gone. No trenches, no wire, no sky-blackened ruins. Only an endless plain of pale dust stretching to the horizon. The light above is neither day nor night, but a steady silver radiance without source. My shadow does not move. I stand there for a long while, waiting for orders that do not come. The mask is silent. The wind does not answer. The world has stopped holding its breath. Now it only waits to forget. I begin to walk because the body remembers motion even when purpose departs. Boots sink into powder that was once mud, once flesh, once steel. Each step leaves a shallow imprint that fills itself moments later, as if the earth is tired of recording. On Krieg, we kept ledgers of loss. Here the world keeps none. The plain stretches without contour. Yet when I lower my gaze and watch closely, I see the faintest suggestions of what used to be a curvature that might have been a trench lip, a darker hue that might have been a crater's rim. Ghost topography. Memory reduced to gradient. I come upon a Lazarifal half-buried, the casing smoothed by dust until it resembles a bone. When I lift it, the weapon sheds its form powder, sifting through my fingers like warm snow. I let it go. The pile collapses into nothing. The silence around me approves. After an hour, if hours exist, I find a post driven into the ground. A broken spade handle, the wood petrified into stone. The symbol is familiar. We used it to mark the pits the earth refused. At its base, the dust is slightly darker, as if wet. I kneel and press my ear to it out of habit, listening for the hum. There is none. Beneath the crust, there is only a deep, clean quiet, untroubled by rhythm, by plea, by remembrance. The wind rises briefly, pushing a curl of dust across the plain. The sound it makes is soft, almost kind. It carries no smell. The absence of scent feels like a sacrament, the last rite of a world that has finished breathing. My lips shape the old prayer without prompting. Through death, redemption. Through obedience, salvation. The words arrive dry and brittle, like leaves. They do not travel far. When they settle, the plain looks unchanged. The prayer has become a private habit, like a scar you forget until it itches. I walk toward the place where the manufactorum should be. Distance refuses meaning. The horizon approaches and retreats in the same breath. A pale structure finally emerges, no longer a ruin, only a suggestion of angles against the silver. Inside, where a floor once gave way, the opening has closed. The earth has healed, or forgotten the wound. I kneel at the sealed place and lay my palm upon it. The soil is cool now, dry, without pulse. It feels like stone that has agreed to be humble. I think of the figure below, of the last inhalation drawn from 1,000 chests. Perhaps that was the final hymn, the ending that taught the world how to be quiet again. The vox bead in my ear stirs, static, thin as frost. Then a voice, remote and uninvested. Unit 317. Acknowledge. I do not answer. The silence here is larger than rank. The voice repeats, fainter, then yields to the same wide quiet. I remove the bead and place it on the ground. The dust accepts it with gratitude, as if happy to keep one more small noise. I realize my breathing has slowed until it resembles sleep. No mask, no ritual, just air entering and leaving a body that has learned it is not necessary. My heart follows, unhurried. It feels less like an engine now and more like a clock you forget to wind. The stillness does not frighten me. It feels like being trusted. I speak aloud, to no one. Because words should be given a proper burial. We held the line. The plane says nothing back. And in that refusal I hear an answer. The line does not need holding anymore. There is only the long, flat mercy of completion. I rise and continue toward the horizon that does not move. If there is a shrine at the edge of this world, it will be made of dust and listening. I will kneel there and offer the only thing I have left. A breath that no longer insists on being mine. The horizon never arrives. I walk for what feels like days, though the light does not change and no shadow marks the distance. Yet the act of walking comforts me. It is a habit the soul remembers when purpose fades. I think of the regiments beneath, marching still in that perfect rhythm, unbroken by death or time. Perhaps I am walking their last echo, above ground where light can still pretend to be divine. Eventually, the plane begins to incline, so gradually that I doubt my perception. My boots scrape stone. The dust grows thinner. A ridge rises ahead, a long swell like the curve of a buried titan's spine. I climb, my breath slow, even, unclaimed. When I reach the crest, I see it. A single statue, half buried, the upper body of a saint cast in corroded bronze. The features are eroded beyond recognition. Only the outline of the aquila remains upon its chest, wings spread wide. Around its base, hundreds of masks lie scattered, piled like offerings, filters broken, lenses cracked, mouths forever open to the silence. I kneel among them. The ground hums faintly beneath the metal fragments, not a living vibration, only the memory of one, like the last tone from a bell long struck. Each mask seems to breathe when I touch it. A sigh of residual air escaping, the exhalation of ghosts. A familiar whisper stirs within the wind. You kept your post. The voice is not in the air, nor in the earth, but within the hollow of my chest. I kept faith. I answer. Faith was the air. You have none left to breathe. The truth of it does not wound. It feels like explanation. The Emperor requires no voice now, only the memory of one. I understand why the world is quiet, because he has already heard enough. I gather one mask from the pile. The lenses are dark with dust. The straps rotted away. When I hold it close, I see my reflection faintly within the glass, overlapping the countless scratches. The face looking back is calm, almost content. I place the mask against my mouth and draw in. There is no resistance, no air, only the faintest taste of metal and age. It is enough. For a heartbeat, I hear them again, the whispering choir, distant but tender, not command, not warning, just remembrance. Their voices fold around mine, forming a single breath that begins nowhere and ends everywhere. The sound fades into the stillness without protest. When I lower the mask, the bronze statue seems to shift in the silver light. The wings catch a glow that might be reflection, might be heartbeat. The wind pauses, as if to listen. I bow my head and whisper the last creed I remember. The Emperor protects. The words leave my mouth like dust falling through water, visible, weightless, already dissolving. The silence that receives them is total. It is not rejection, it is rest. I think of Krieg as it was. The ash fields, the vaults, the endless sermons of obedience. Perhaps they were all steps toward this, an education in stillness, a lesson in how to let the world finish speaking. My knees sink deeper into the dust until it feels like home. The sky above remains a colorless sheet, without sun, without stars. It does not need them. Illumination has become internal. Somewhere below, the regiments breathe one last time, and the sound reaches me faintly through the soil, an exhale that lasts forever. The light begins to dim, not by degrees, but all at once. As if the act of illumination itself decides it has served its purpose. I remain kneeling before the faceless saint. My hand rests on the pile of masks. The metal beneath my glove is cold, dry, certain. In their stillness I hear nothing, and that nothing feels complete. There will be no last prayer. There is only breath. It enters, it leaves. And then, even that becomes unnecessary. For a long moment I try to remember what waiting felt like. Orders, drills, the ritual of readiness. Now there is no order to wait for. The absence of command is a strange mercy. It releases the heart from its pulse, the mind from its need to interpret. Wind touches my face. I had forgotten the sensation of it. It carries no message, no sound, only movement. It passes through me as though testing the outline of a man that no longer insists on being one. I close my eyes. Behind the lids I see not darkness but a vast gray plain scattered with still forms, millions of us. Standing shoulder to shoulder, masks raised toward a sky that has forgotten what light is for. Each form is quiet, content. Together we shape the silhouette of a god who no longer needs to speak. The ground under me gives a final soft tremor, more sigh than quake. The statue's bronze wings tilt forward, As if in benediction, I bow. My body answers gravity willingly. It is tired of posture. The dust rises in a gentle halo around me and then falls again. When the last breath leaves, it does not feel like departure but return. I think I hear something in the distance, a pulse, the hint of a hum, but it may only be the echo of a world remembering how to rest. The Emperor protects. I think he only listens. I do not rise, but I am not gone. There is a kind of thinking that remains after breath, thin as smoke, patient as ash. It does not hurry, it does not push. It settles. I find that I can rest inside it the way a seed rests inside soil, not yet summoned, not yet asked to be more than waiting. The dust of this field is a cathedral without walls. Every grain has a memory of heat, a memory of weight. I join it. I am the smallest part of silence, and it receives me. There is no sky here, only a pale lid of light. It does not change, and because it does not change, I learn to stop counting. Counting belongs to men. Men measure so that they may obey in orderly fashion. Silence has no measures. It is perfectly obedient already. If I turn, I do so without limbs. If I listen, I do so without ears. Listening now is a shape more than a skill, a way of lying still without asking questions. Questions were air, answers were command. What lies beyond both is the slow comfort of being unrequired. Somewhere, far within the field where my body folded, a small wind crosses the ground. I can feel it by the way the dust leans, a gentleness like a gloved hand settling on a shoulder. The wind does not speak. It maps absence, then goes on. Once, on Krieg, an instructor told us, "Learn the weight of your place. If you become lighter than that, you will drift into error." I think I have become exactly as light as my place. I am not pulled, not pushed. I am held. The world fits around me like a mask that finally learned my face. Memory comes and goes in slow tides. Not pictures, Krieg did not encourage pictures, but textures. The sting of resin when the first seal closed around my jaw. The faint taste of oil when we swore our oaths in the vaults. The wire rasp of a shovel edge through winter clay. The simple weight of a lasgun resting across my knees at night, warmer than prayer. I do not resent these. I keep them polished and set them on a shelf that no longer needs walls. When they grow heavy, I lay them down. The silence keeps them for me. The silence keeps everything. At times I wonder about 813, not with grief, not with longing. Those are air-breathing habits, but with the soft curiosity reserved for a name written in dust. I think he has joined the subterranean calm completely. There is a place underneath all places where motion finally exhausts itself and becomes patience. If he is there, he no longer needs to be told to stand to. He is standing always. The line he holds is not a line of earth and board, but a line drawn across forgetting. It is a kind line. It allows people to go past without getting lost. I do not hear the hum now, not as sound. But there is an arrangement in the quiet, a spacing. The way the dust lies is not random. It drifts, it settles, and in settling it takes on patterns recognizable to those who have marched long enough to see cadence in everything. If I look without eyes, I can almost read the old words scratched into the trench timbers. Hold the line, translated into the language of stillness. Each trough, each ridge, each shallow in the plain, repeats the sentence without repeating any letter. This pleases me. It means obedience lasted long enough to outlive breath. From time to time, something new arrives, a flake of paint shorn from a relic, the brittle scrap of a banner thread, a bead of glass that once was lens, the hard oval of a seed carried far on an exhausted wind. Each settles into the same tone. None speak. The world takes them as it took me, without ceremony, without committee, and therefore with a holiness no liturgy could maintain. Once we stamped and shouted and drilled in order to prove we meant it. Now, meaning proves us by refusing to move. There is, in the center of this not sky, a coolness like the inside of stone. If I drift no longer quite the right verb, but the old verbs are all I have, I can bring myself into that coolness and rest more deeply. When I do, something like a memory of singing passes through. Not the subterranean hymn that woke me once, not the respirator's tender murmurs, but a thinner, cleaner line, like breath stripped to the idea of breath. It makes no demands, it offers no reward. It is the emperor, perhaps, in his most honest vestment. Not command, not answer, but presence that refuses to insist upon itself. We made long wars in the name of his noise. I think he is here as proof that we misunderstood. He approves of our correction. He approves by not correcting further. I notice, without surprise, that the plain is not as empty as it first appeared. The suggestion of trenches continues to soften, but sometimes a shallow takes on a curve that the hand remembers. Sometimes the ground holds a small depression exactly where a man would place a knee to pray, though no knee has touched it in this world. The dust remembers touch, like an old hound remembers the shape of a door. The memory does not open anything. It does not need to. Openness is now the default. A figure approaches. Approaches is generous. The air does not bend, and the ground does not record. Yet the outline accumulates a gentle thickening of light and shadow until the idea of a guardsman stands where a man once would. The habit in me tries to rise, to salute, to wait for orders. The new part of me, quieter, wider, only attends. The not man does not halt. He stands as though waiting for a password we both know is retired. We do not exchange names. He lifts his hand toward his face and mimes the act of lowering a mask. The gesture is perfect. The air stays the same. He holds the absent mask a moment longer and then sets the ghost of it down among the real ones at the statue's feet. The sound it makes is silence improved by company. We both agree this is good. When he fades, he does not go. Fading here is just a redistribution. I could point to where he became, but pointing is for coordinates, and coordinates are for plans, and plans are for breath. We are beyond all three. What remains of command finds me occasionally. A thin thread of vox. A sentence in the voice of a bureaucrat repeating a schedule no longer attached to anything. Advance. Redeploy. Hold. The words arrive like old insects tapping a window in winter. They are not unwelcome. They simply do not apply. I lay them in the dust with the other metal tokens, rank pins, cracked buttons, a scrap of parchment with the tail end of a catechism. The dust arranges them into an icon so soft no eye could see it, and the icon keeps company with the quiet. I consider writing a final report. The habit is strong. Krieg made archivists of all of us, even the ones who could not write. Our ledgers were trenches in ink, but reports assume readers, and readers live where clocks live. Here the ledger is the plain, and its script is relief and hollowness, and its audience is the patient attention of light on dust. I dictated anyway, the way a child talks to a shuttered shrine. We held as ordered. We advanced when told. We continued when not told. We learned the shape of breath larger than lungs. We accepted that protection looks like erasure when seen from inside. We were erased, and found that erasure is a kind of inscription, deeper than ink, nearer to bone than bone. We commend the remainder to silence. If the commissar walked this field, I think the silence would bless him too. Not because he was right, not because we were wrong, but because blessing is what the world does when it stops needing to sort. He would reach for his ledger, and the pages would not turn, and in that stillness he would understand duty as we finally do. A posture the earth has taken on our behalf. I do not ask to be remembered. Memory is a kind wind, but often a cruel archivist. It bends toward clean names and straight lines. We were neither. We were smudges that held. We were the patient weight that kept other things from blowing into the fire. If remembrance is required, let it be the way dust clings to the wet rim of a canteen, the way board grain prints itself on a sleeping cheek, the way a glove carries the smell of a tool after the hand has forgotten it. Small, unremarked, exact, At last, something like night passes over no darker than a closed eye, no colder than a held breath. The statue's corroded wings drink it without shine. Somewhere under everything, a very old machine decides to stop thinking it must run. It does not break. It completes its task by releasing the idea of task. What it leaves behind is a warmth so faint only a world could feel it. I take one more breath because habit asks, and then I set even habit down. The plane folds itself and remains unfolded. The masks at the saint's feet keep open mouths like empty cups content to be empty. The wind rehearses movement without message and grows good at neither. The silence practices being itself and achieves mastery. If you should ever stand here, whoever you are, whatever scripture taught you to raise your chin at the sound of a whistle, know that you are not alone. And also that alone is not the punishment you were promised. Know that obedience was always an apprenticeship in listening. Know that listening has an end, and that end is not hearing but keeping. The Emperor protects. Perhaps he was always this, the precise attention that outlasts breath. If so, I am within his gaze now, and his gaze asks nothing, and because it asks nothing, I finally know how to answer.